Some pledges can be paid by credit card or EFT, and Denari uses the pledge record as the way to instigate and manage the process. Before setting up the credit card or EFT information, you will need to fill in the pledge information that we've covered so far in the first video and then hit Save. That will cause the credit card or EFT links to appear below. Setting up a credit card is very similar to an EFT with a few differences, so we'll start with the credit card. First, you'll check the credit card checkbox. This tells Denari that this is a credit card pledge. Next, be sure that the status field is set to Live. That simply means that this is ready to go. You can change the status to any of the others when needed, and Denari will use this field as well from time to time. We'll cover that in more detail in the credit card and EFT videos. But as an example, you could put a credit card pledge on hold, and that will prevent Denari from running that pledge on its next scheduled run. Next, you'll add the credit card information by clicking the Add Edit link. It's important to note here that when you click that link, the window that opens is a front stream window. When you enter the credit card information and click Save at the bottom, that information goes directly to FrontStream. It is not stored by Denari or by you. The reason for that is that FrontStream is PCI compliant, which simply means that they meet all the standards for security set by the credit card industry and are audited on a regular basis to be sure that they maintain the standards. Furthermore, that is the only time that the credit card information passes over the internet. FrontStream compiles the credit card data on their end and gives it a code called a PNREF. That code is sent back to Denari. When the credit card transaction is initiated by Denari from the pledge, Denari only sends the code from that point forward. FrontStream then matches the code with the credit card record there and uses that to process the transaction. This method does provide great security for your donors. However, it does present a problem because FrontStream stores the credit card and EFT info as a single record. That means that the expiration date and credit card number are bundled together into one record and stored at FrontStream. So updating a credit card when the expiration date is passed is impossible. You can't really edit a credit card or EFT record. When you need to update a credit card record, you will need to set up a new credit card record in the pledge by clicking the Add Edit link and entering the credit card number along with the new expiration. Also, when you click Save from the FrontStream window, that will run a transaction to authorize the credit card. This just sets up the card on their end and confirms that as of today, the credit card is valid and can be used for transactions. The transaction amount will show temporarily on the donor's bank record, but will disappear quickly. This is the same process used by gas stations and stores, so your donors should know what to expect if they happen to inspect their bank account before the authorization charge is gone. At the bottom of the page is a field called Credit Card Attempts. That will show you the activity on the credit card. And so as the authorization is made, you'll see that shown here. When the first transaction is done, you'll see that shown here, and so forth. It'll keep a running list of all the activity on this card. Now you need to set up a day of the month and the next transaction date. The day of the month is the day that you and the donor have agreed on when you transact their credit card or EFT. These two fields work both with credit card and EFT. So if the donor wants the transaction to take place on the 10th of each month, you will put 10 in that field. The next transaction date is the actual date that the next transaction will take place. So if this is June 1, you might set the next transaction date for 6/10/2013. The next transaction date field is an important field because it gives you control over when the transaction will take place. If the donor contacts you and asks you to skip next month's credit card transaction, you can change the schedule to adjust how Denari calculates the stats, but you will also need to change the NTD so that it transacts 1 month ahead. Or let's say that the credit card runs on the 10th and fails. You may contact the donor to get updated credit card information, and now you can move the NTD 2 days ahead so that it runs again for that month's payment. Everything about setting up EFTs is the same as with the credit card, except for the time that it takes to transact. If you have a credit card pledge with a next transaction date of June 10, then Denari will send the info to FrontStream on the 10th, and the transaction will take place on the 10th. EFTs are different, however, because they have to run through the banking system. We've been told that it can take as long as 10 days for EFTs to completely process and for the money to be transferred to your account. However, usually it only takes 2 to 3 days. If your EFT pledge is set to transact on June 10, Denari will send the info to FrontStream on the 9th. This starts the process so that the actual transfer of money from your donor's account will take place close to the date they intended. With both EFTs and credit cards, Denari will automatically create a batch for you with all the gift records, and it does that at the same time that it sends the information to FrontStream. We'll cover this process in more detail in the credit card and EFT training video. This covers the process of setting up a pledge internally. If you're using Online Community, Denari will create the pledge for you when an online donor chooses a pledge frequency other than one time. It will set up the pledge with a day of the month and next transaction date and run automatically on those days. There are several ways to report on pledge activity, with Pledge Segmenter being the primary method. We've covered Pledge Segmenter in a separate video. Denari also gives you the ability to send pledge statements to update your donors on their pledge status, and those can be filtered to send to anyone or just those who are behind, or even those who are more than a number of days behind. Statements and reports will be covered in a separate video as well. This concludes the pledge setup video. If you have any questions, please contact tech support through the support button at the top of the Denari page.